Welcome to Navarrero's online showcase video. Today we are back at the wheat farm in Mesa Plains, and I want to start out this video by talking about industry placements again, likely for the last time, because I made a major update but I'm now happy with where it's at. The thing is, on my original pitch for this, I just really wanted to see if I could find a good location for every industry. I wasn't even planning on playing on this myself, but that meant that everything was kinda placed a bit haphazardly. So to give it a bit more polish, I reworked a few locations, and the wheat farm is actually one of them. The thing is, there is a tiny little bump in the ground right here. It's not that easy to see, but especially if you are looking at it from above when you are trying to place down an industry, it's basically invisible. So of course, when I placed down the wheat farm the first time, I put it down so that if you place any track to load up the grain, you would be going straight into this thing. And the thing about me making industry layouts is that I always want to have a save before I start really playing on the whole thing. So that's a save that only has the basic industry layouts without any connecting track. Maybe a bit of track around here, like particularly good looking bridge somewhere. For example, when I do the sawmill drop-off connection, I usually put just that thing in there as well, or at the back of a stamp mill, just so that that all looks like what it should be. But that's about it. Plus, of course, starter cars, starter engine, and a bit of track to put all of that on, but that's really the extent of it. And when I start playing, I make sure to not overwrite that save. I play on a separate save, but it should have all the same industries. So initially I moved the wheat farm around when I started playing. I didn't adjust it on the starter save, but now that I've gone back in order to clean up some stuff, I replaced a whole lot of things, and for consistency's sake, I copied over the exact location from the starter save to my playthrough again, meaning that I had to redo the entire yard because it's now at a slightly different location, and I think also at a different angle, just to get really clear of this bump here. So trust me, while it's looking pretty much the same as before, it absolutely isn't. But that's only one of the minor differences. I've done a few bigger things here. Of course, as talked about the last time, gold smelter and meatpacking plant are now switched because that makes far more sense with how you traverse the entire map. Gonna be quite the trip from the stamp mill, but I mean, alright, who cares? I could have placed this down at a different location, but I kinda like the idea of having maybe a combined yard and having to split up the stuff that goes to the gold mine. We're gonna see how that works out if I ever get to it. I think at this point I might actually just build the yard even though I don't have any access to any of the goods here. But just to really figure out if it would work out and how it could go. Anyways, that's some of the minor stuff. I readjusted the coal mine because it's kinda in a tricky spot. But one of the things that I actually needed a Railroad Studio for is the dredge. That's right, I put the dredge back into the water. It may be shallow water, but at least there's some plausible story here that the boat is actually swimming. It's amazing what we can do with technology these days, and what I really mean to say is it's weird what we need third-party tools to do for us in this game, because you cannot put the boat into the water on the default way. It doesn't work, as I've shown you last time. But that's only comparatively a minor change. Let's now talk about the big one. You may have already seen it on the map. It's of course the Silverton Railway Express Agency. That's another minor thing. I just decided to put it on the edge of the plateau here, because if it's actually in the middle, it's very easy to end up in a situation where every track you try to connect to the middle, it's just gonna build around it. So it being on the edge is likely easier to connect to. Now the big change is the pier. It disappeared. Used to be here alongside a very, very long bridge coming all the way down from that tree into this area, and I just decided that I didn't like the pier over here. It's too far out of the way of everything else, and also the area is kinda stupid to work with in my opinion. I could have gone down to ground level here to the sandy beach, but then I would be going around that side of a mountain, which is a massive detour, and going up there, it just didn't look good. It didn't come together for me. So I decided to move the entire pier, once again with Railroad Studio, because in the base game there is no way to do this, and it's now over here. Note that the boat actually follows the location of the pier, so its path is directly tied to where the pier is, but I managed to put it down in a way where, well, the boat doesn't go much further this direction than disconnecting from the pier, and therefore it doesn't ever look like it's actually beaching. You just gotta imagine that the water down here actually gets quite deep. But yeah, this is where I put it. We are now a bit further inland with it, so it's much easier to connect to the other parts without that long of a bridge. I mean, it's still a decently long one, but it's not the absolute monstrosity that the other one was. And also this little dip in the ground makes it much easier to get a smooth connection further up. So I'm really happy with it. Also in this location it's much more straightforward building a connection from the level of the sand. There is a decently large plateau over here, you can see the white outline. And I just built a track directly from here to there so that I don't need to take the Montezuma up the grade and then back down again. Not really all that useful in the long run, I think. Once I get stronger engines, this entire track might as well go. But, well, right now it's pretty useful. So let's talk about the pier a bit more before we get into the stuff that I built at the end there. Basically, I have the same kind of track layout on my starter save, but this is basically just a recreation because copying over splines would be a much more tedious task, and I didn't want to bother with it. But yeah, I also now finally got a helper engine over here for helping with loading the pallets. I'm considering to maybe, at least for myself, make a restriction over here that I'm only supposed to unload in this part. Because unloading on the entire pier is just, it doesn't really feel right for me. But yeah, maybe I'll mark out an area and that's gonna be the one where I'm allowed to unload, and it's just gonna be for myself. Basically, right next to the boat would be the location for that. But yeah, the important part is we have track here again, and yeah, this is, from what I heard, also a similar thing on the default placement. I cannot load that with this PC, it basically dies, but getting the right height over here is not too difficult. By the way, part of the reason why I placed this thing so far inland is so that I could avoid the invisible wall. So yeah, right to the outside of here, that's where I cannot go any further. But I made sure that it's outside of the perimeter of the entire dock here. So that should be very easy to deal with, especially if you want to decorate the outside a bit. I already put up some lanterns, but on some of the pillars over here, I could only put a lantern at the very edge because everything here was already out of bounds. They really made a tight restriction on that whole thing. And yeah, this is now a bit more open. We can actually go into the water if we want to, or if we are not careful enough. Can I also go into the boat, or is that just... Nope, that's another hitbox that I cannot get into. Cannot get any closer than that. But yeah, overall this is looking pretty nice. This is working out pretty well. The one thing I don't like, on the first version I didn't get the right distance from the crane to the track in order to load the stuff directly on the middle. Now that I've taken care of that, I only have 2 tracks over here and I would have really liked to have 3 of them. But I also didn't like the whole S-bend thing after the platform, and therefore going straight into the thing right here only leaves me place for 1 track to the right, and on the left I would likely be running into other things further down the pier. So that's not a good thing. And the reason why it's so far away, let me quickly show you guys. I always like using the wall for this because it has a very hard edge at the end. So if I place this perpendicular to the platform, what I like to do to figure out the right distance is just place this with the end through the middle of the crane. So this is basically its rotation axis. And then I can go 5 meters from there, and that should be the middle of the track. The reason for that is if I do this the other way around, and I just try to line up the end of the track with the hook over here, that's also gonna be 5 meters. So basically, right now the hook is 5 meters from the base of the crane, and if I go 5 meters with my track the other direction, this is where it's gonna unload. Pretty simple, pretty easy, but it's something that you have to keep in mind. And yeah, from there I just had a temporary track from this end going across the entire thing, and then try to figure out the height level from there. Basically, for anybody who wants to recreate this, I'm gonna quickly do this right here. So I place down the track that would be coming across the entire thing here, and it should be at the right angle. And when I'm from that end of the pier, I would just going down beneath it and try to get the same angle and the same location, make everything go in line, and just go slightly below the deck of the pier with the grounding of the ballast, ground level, whatever. And something like this should be looking pretty good here. This is maybe a bit too low. Ideally, you want to see the parts where the track flanges outwards again. But yeah, this is my whole method to this, and from that point on I can take a long track, put it back across the entire thing, and then start building up switches and that kind of thing. Basically, once I have the right height level, I only use the ballast-less track. If I just put it down like this, of course you get the ties as well. But if you figure out the right height level, you can make this look pretty seamless. Yeah, so much about this stuff. I also placed down another turntable over here because I like being able to turn the engine around, and I even came up with a method to make this look really nice. I don't know why the game keeps cutting off my ends of the ballast over here, otherwise it would be looking a bit cleaner. But yeah, this thing, really proud about. I might actually make a quick video about how to recreate this, because this is actually a really neat little building technique. Just takes a while, and I think it would be a bit too much for this video. Anyways, yeah, this is of course only for my playthrough. This wouldn't be present on the default layout. I'm not gonna give you guys that much, if I ever upload that to begin with. Anyways, from here we have 2 tracks, one going that direction towards the cattle farm, also in a new location. A bit closer together now. So it used to be further down this line. This isn't that much of a difference, but I like it more. And then of course the lower track going straight towards the wheat farm. Could also use it to later transport a few other things to to the freight depot, but yeah, this could also be a track that eventually just gets completely abandoned and eventually removed. Because I don't necessarily need this one. But yeah, we can take it all the way back to the wheat farm, and that's basically to back where we started. And I think it's now time to talk about the current state of the playthrough and something that I learned from that. First up, I got myself a Eureka, one of the fastest engines in the game, and actually the earliest one that you can get a top level, top speed engine. Not the strongest, but I don't really need to pull all that much stuff here, so it should be fine. 29 miles per hour top speed. I think it's 22 if you don't touch the reverser. So that's gonna be quite a bit quicker than the Montezuma. Montezuma actually, if you get the reverser perfect, which doesn't really work once you start pulling cars, you could go up to 22, but this thing is gonna do it without any cut-off interaction. But yeah, this is gonna be a nice addition to my world over here. I was actually considering to maybe add the porter that I have at the docks to the starter layout, just to make that unloading part there a bit easier. As a compensation for not giving people another freight depot. I don't know. Might do that. But yeah, this is a nice engine. I haven't even really used it yet, but I'm looking forward to. The thing is, my operations over here at the farm industry chain might be coming to an end, and I might switch over to logging sooner than later. And to explain why, I need to get into the shop menu here. And we need to go on a bit of a tangent. Let's take a look at the cars that you need in order to do the old industry chain. So logging camp, sawmill, iron mine and smelter and so on. You start needing a car for logging, and yeah, the basic old logging car is level 1, so you can buy a lot of them if you have the money, but they are unlocked by default. And you're gonna be doing logging for a bit until you get to level 2, because at that point you unlock the stake car. It says in the top left level 2, and stake cars are what you need in order to transport stuff from the sawmill to any other location. So that's mainly gonna be the iron mine, or to start out with, to make a bit of money, the freight depot. But yeah, this is already quite a bit of progress that you get here. And you can do so with the full-size car. And if you go further than that, level 3 gives you the bulkhead, which isn't really that useful at that point. But at least once you get to level 4, you get your hoppers. Hoppers are expensive, so you're gonna have to grind for that anyways, and at that point you may want to grind a bit more to get a better engine anyways, because, well, it's gonna be tough going up the mountain with a starter engine, and usually that's where you find your iron mine. But yeah, this thing, really expensive, but also a money maker. I think you make, like, what was it again? $300 per hopper, or was it up to 500? I think it was even 500. It was really ridiculous the last time I checked. But yeah, this is gonna make a lot of money, and from that point on you're basically golden. You're gonna get a few more cars later down the line, but at that point you have a lot of different industries to deliver to, and the stake cars will also allow you to just take the stuff from the iron smelter and put it somewhere else. Plus the bulkheads for the cordwood. But yeah, basically what I'm meaning to say is the way you unlock the cars really makes sense for what you do with the old industry chain. So let's now see what we have available for the wheat farm. And yeah, I've not really talked about these things for the other chain, because of course they are an option, but you don't really need to bother with them if you don't want to. However, for the farming chain, all that you have are these ones from the start. You need either the flat car or the box car in order to transport the seed pallets. Of course, wet cars are a bit better for that because they can hold twice as many, but you won't be able to transport grain with that. You need this one in particular for that. And of course, the water car, the small one, in order to get the water to a wheat farm. And at that point, if you want to go anywhere from that, you are going to definitely need the box car and also a bulkhead car. Maybe at that point you unlocked the one from the one over here from level 3, but that's about it for a while. At that point you are basically stuck, because the next thing that you need is cars for the cattle to take the stuff from the cattle farm over to either the freight depot or to the meatpacking plant. And the cattle car is actually level 5. Or the stock car here. Livestock car as it is. You don't even get the large water tank car until level 4. For grain you're also gonna have to wait until level 5, and this, I think, is also the only car available to transport the seed pallets with in terms of the larger ones. So you're really stuck with your tiny cars, and that for way too long in my opinion. So yeah, I'm kind of tempted maybe putting some, at least 1 or 2 cattle cars onto the starter save, just so that people can actually use that from the get-go. Honestly, at this point, with better payouts for the wheat stuff, I think it's a bit too early getting the stock cars from just the jump. But unless this was turned into a level 3 car, it's just gonna be way too late. Level 5 takes ages, so really if you start using the wheat farm as a starter industry that you want to focus on, you're gonna be delivering a lot of stuff to the freight depot and maybe some to the cattle farm, but it doesn't really matter much because you cannot take anything out of the cattle farm in time. And therefore you're just gonna be stuck with doing the same not so lucrative stuff for a long time. And I think a good solution to this would be having a small cattle car. I think this one can hold up to 6, maybe 2 or 3 would be alright. But yeah, we need something to make that work. As it is, it's just not really viable unless you're really into grinding it for a long time. I mean, it gets a bit better if you just keep investing and getting more cars and everything, but these ones are not that stable to begin with, and I had quite a few derailings on this layout already, even just with good old Montezuma. Sometimes it feels like the cars are just frozen in place, even though they shouldn't be, and I keep pulling, and I'm rather pulling the middle cars off the track instead of getting the ones in the back to move, despite double and triple checking that all the brakes are open. But yeah, this might be something to come back to later once I am level 5, once I can get the large box cars, once I get the livestock car, and yeah, once I'm also able to afford a bit more, because I would really like to go big with this one. I tried doing that on the MIA playthrough and I ran into the whole issue with industry output and wasting resources if one thing is full but not the other. And I think a way to get past this, and I'm not entirely sure how exactly I want to do this, but I want to have on this side one helper engine just dedicated to loading and a whole button of cars for each of the goods here. So basically I need 4 sidings, one for empty box cars, one for loaded ones, one for empty bulkheads, and one for loaded bulkheads. I don't really know how I want to do this yet. One option would be having the bulkhead cars in this direction, the other cars in that one. Maybe I just make 4 sidings and have the inner 2 for the box cars and the outer 2 for the bulkheads, so I can pull them in from over here. But yeah, basically I need to be able to, when I unload, to go onto this side and just do some intermediate loading just so that I can make sure that nothing ever gets full. I don't know if that would be an option on the MIA playthrough, but I'm definitely gonna prototype it over here, and once I get back onto the other PC, maybe we are going to see if that works out on the other save as well. Also curious how well this is gonna go, because I remember having a lot of derailments with the Eureka tender in particular. So while I'm happy to see a new engine, this might be a bit more spicy than I wanted to. Anyways, before we end this episode, let me take you guys over to the cattle farm, because, well, it is in a new location and things have changed around here. And yeah, this is the closest telegraph post that I have right here, so gotta be a bit of flying. So I think until this point, this is still the old track that used to go down that direction and down to the pier. But I've actually turned this whole thing into a loop now. Mainly so that I can have a more direct connection from the water wells over to the cattle farm. Otherwise I would be going around the long way here, and yeah, no thanks. But yeah, the new cattle farm location is here. There isn't really much of a yard yet, but I'm happy that I at least got it connected. I have a way around to take the short route now. Just a way over here to turn the engine around once I'm done. I think this is gonna be a really simple yard. Also, to keep the grade down on the slope, I decided to just go with a few corners. This is still too much to handle for the Montezuma with 8 loaded small water cars. I hope the Eureka is gonna fare a bit better. But yeah, this is also where we can go back to the track that I needed to lay from the oil field where I started over to this place. And I think sooner than later I'm going to branch off from here and go towards the logging place. So this one right here. And yeah, this one has also been rotated because it was basically like this for a long time, and yeah, you can not really do much in terms of a yard if that's the space you're working with, so this should be a bit easier. Might have to cut down a few trees, but hey, that's kind of a modus operandi for this place. And yeah, this is likely where I'm gonna go from this point on. Really looking forward to seeing how well the sawmill is gonna work out. But yeah, I'm also likely gonna have a diamond interchange over here. So 4-way Y kind of thing with what's the thing called, with a crossing in the middle, and hopefully that's not gonna double cross me and make my trains derail. It's gonna be a 90-degree piece, so I think it should be alright. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how well this is gonna work out. And yeah, I think with that we are at the end of this video. I don't think I have much else to talk about or show you guys. So with that being said, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. See you guys next time, and until then, have a good one. Bye bye.